laughter in the room hit me like a punch to the gut. There I was, standing in the middle of Blake's fancy company party, the kind with twinkling chandeliers and waiters circling with champagne flutes, and my husband, my own damn husband, had his arms slung around some sleek, smirking woman half my age. "Everyone, meet Vanessa," he announced, his voice booming over the jazz band like he was toasting a promotion. "The real woman who's been keeping me inspired. Not like my boring housewife over there. Right. Harper." Still stuck folding laundry while the world moves on? The crowd chuckled awkwardly, eyes darting my way, and I felt my face burn hotter than the spotlights. But he wasn't done. "Pack your bags. Harper, you're out. Vanessa's moving in tonight." Just like that, in front of his bosses, his colleagues, people who'd smiled at me at last year's holiday bash, he humiliated me, kicked me to the curb like yesterday's trash, and our 8-year-old daughter Riley, clutching my hand in her little party dress, her eyes wide as saucers, she saw it all. If you've ever been betrayed by someone you loved, stabbed in the back when you least expected it, drop a comment below with the country you're watching from. We love hearing from our global revenge story family. It reminds us we're not alone in these wild comeback tales. Hey, if this is your first time here, welcome. Hit that subscribe button and give this video a like if you're ready for more epic stories of underdogs rising up. Your support keeps these tales coming. I couldn't breathe. The room spun as Blake shoved a wad of cash at me like I was some fired nanny and told me to grab Riley and go. Vanessa just stood there, sipping her drink, her red lips curled in that victorious grin, probably thinking she'd won the jackpot. Blake's motive. Crystal clear in hindsight, he'd always chased the shiny new thing, the thrill of power at work bleeding into our home. He'd built his tech firm on my ideas, the ones I'd sketched late nights while he partied, but now I was holding him back. His coldness cut deep. This wasn't just anger, it was calculated, like he'd planned this spectacle to crush me publicly, make sure I couldn't show my face in our suburban circle again. Riley tugged my sleeve as we stumbled out into the pouring rain, the venue's neon sign blurring through the downpour. My heels sank into puddles, soaking my dress, and tears mixed with the water streaming down my face. At 32, I'd given up everything for him, my business degree dreams, full-time jobs to raise our family while he climbed the ladder. Smart, ambitious Harper reduced to this homeless in one night. No savings because he'd controlled it all. The shame clawed at me. How had I let it get here? I thought of calling my estranged aunt, but pride stopped me. Riley, usually so shy, huddled under my coat, her small body shivering. She didn't cry, though. Instead, she whispered something that froze me in place. "Mom," she said, her voice steady despite the storm. "Don't worry, I've got a plan." What plan could an 8-year-old have? My heart raced fear, confusion, a spark of desperate hope. Little did I know, that whisper was the start of everything flipping upside down. As I sat in that dingy motel room that night, rain pounding the window like it was trying to break in, Riley curled up asleep on the lumpy bed with her tablet clutched tight. Her words echoed in my head. I've got a plan. What could a kid like her possibly plan? I stared at the peeling wallpaper, the kind with faded floral patterns that screamed cheap and temporary, and my mind drifted back. Way back to how this nightmare started. Because to understand the mess we were in, you have to see where it all began, the roots of this toxic mess that grew into Blake's betrayal. It was 10 years ago. Fresh out of high school in a small Midwestern town where everyone knew everyone's business. I was 22, full of fire, with a full-ride scholarship to business school at the state university. I'd worked my butt off for it nights flipping burgers at the local diner, days studying in the library while my single mom juggled 2 jobs to keep the lights on. We weren't fancy. Dad had split when I was little, leaving us in a cramped apartment above a laundromat. But I had dreams, big ones, of starting my own online marketing gig, helping small businesses like Mom's cleaning service get noticed. Then Blake walked in. He was charming as hell, that guy from the nicer side of town, with his easy smile and stories about wanting to build a tech startup. We met at a community college class I was taking for extra credits him, dropping into network, me, actually grinding. Sparks flew fast. 6 months later, we were married in a backyard ceremony. Nothing extravagant. Just burgers on the grill and string lights twinkling like stars. I remember standing there in my thrift store dress, thinking, this is it. Harper, you've got a partner now. We'll build something together. But right from the honeymoon, a quick drive to a cabin in the woods because we couldn't afford more cracks showed. Blake talked nonstop about his app idea. Something for streamlining small business ops. Babe, this could be huge, he'd say, pacing the creaky porch while I unpacked. I nodded, excited. And that's when I made the first sacrifice. He convinced me to defer my scholarship for a year. Help me launch this, and we'll both win, he promised. So I did. Dropped out of full-time school, took a part-time gig at a coffee shop, and poured my ideas into his project. Late nights at our tiny apartment table, me sketching wireframes on napkins, him coding away. It felt like teamwork, like love. Fast forward a bit, and the app took off. Blake got seed funding from some investors he met at a conference investors I researched and prepped him for. Suddenly, we were moving up a cozy house in the suburbs, the kind with a white picket fence and a swing set in the yard for the kid we planned. But that's when the shift happened. Blake started pulling away, buried in work. Gotta hustle, Harper, he'd say, kissing my forehead before vanishing into his home office, the door clicking shut like a barrier. I handled everything else, the bills, the groceries, the doctor's appointments when I got pregnant with Riley. Riley arrived like a little miracle, all chubby cheeks and big blue eyes, in a hospital room that smelled of antiseptic and hope. I remember holding her, exhausted but beaming, while Blake checked emails on his phone. Great job, babe, he muttered, barely looking up. That stung, but I brushed it off. Motherhood hit hard. Riley had colic those first months, crying through the nights while I paced the living room, the TV flickering mute infomercials. Blake. He'd sleep with earplugs, claiming he needed rest for big meetings. My dreams on hold again. I tried starting an online side hustle, marketing tips for moms like me, but Blake shut it down. Focus on the family, Harper. That's your strength. His words felt like a pat on the head, not a compliment. His family didn't help. Oh man, the Whitmans were something else. Blake's mom, Evelyn, a classic stay-at-home type from the burbs, with her perfectly coiffed hair and pearl necklace, always looked at me like I was a stray cat they'd let in. Harper, dear, you're so grounded, she'd say at family dinners, her smile tight as she passed the casserole. Grounded meaning poor, I guess. Coming from a blue-collar family, I didn't fit their image. Blake's brother, Travis, the golden boy who ran his own real estate firm, was worse. Bro, you married a keeper for the home front, he'd joke, slapping Blake's back while they sipped beers on the patio. They'd laugh, and I'd force a grin, stirring the salad, feeling like an outsider in my own life. Their disdain fueled Blake's ego. Evelyn would pull him aside at holidays, Thanksgiving tables loaded with turkey and pies, the air thick with cinnamon and judgment and whisper. You deserve someone who matches your ambition. Son, don't settle. Settle, I'd built half his business from scraps, but Blake ate it up. His success went to his head. Promotions rolled in, and so did the late nights. Client dinners, he'd call them, coming home smelling of perfume that wasn't mine. I confronted him once in our kitchen with the granite counters I'd picked out, the fridge humming softly. Blake, who's she? I asked, holding up a receipt for a fancy necklace. He gaslit me hard. You're paranoid. Harper. Work stress is making you crazy. His eyes were cold, detached, like I was a problem to manage. Not his wife. Deep down, I knew. The outer affairs started subtle, a flirty text here, a work trip there. Vanessa entered the picture around Riley's 5th birthday. I overheard Blake on the phone one night, whispering in his office, the door ajar just enough for the light to slice across the hallway carpet. Can't wait to see you, babe. Harper's clueless. My heart dropped like a stone. I froze in the shadows, tears burning, but I didn't burst in. Why fear, I guess, of losing the life we'd built, of being a single mom like my own, scraping by. So I swallowed it, focused on Riley, her school plays, her asthma inhaler always in my purse, her little drawings taped to the fridge. Riley, though, she was sharper than I realized. One afternoon, maybe 2 years ago, I found her in her room, pink walls covered in unicorn posters, hunched over her tablet. What you doing, sweetie? I asked, ruffling her hair. School project, she mumbled, quickly closing the app. It was a digital journal. I thought, full of kid stuff. But looking back, that was the start. She'd overheard things, Blake's calls, his snide comments about me being stuck in the past. Kids pick up on everything. Right. She started documenting, sneaky-like, pretending it was homework. Photos of his late-night texts, audio clips from arguments. I had no clue. I was too busy holding it all together. The sacrifices piled up. I skipped girls' nights to cook his favorite meals, hoping it'd bring him back. Ignored my health, those stress headaches, the weight gain from emotional eating. Blake's family kept pushing at a family BBQ last summer, smoke rising from the grill. Evelyn cornered me by the cooler. Blake needs a partner who elevates him, not drags him down. Drags him down, I'd elevated him from nothing. Travis chimed in later, beer in hand. Sis, maybe get a hobby or a job. Their motive was clear, protect the family image, the successful Whitmans. They saw me as the weak link, the girl from the wrong side of the tracks who'd trapped Blake. It ate at me, that bitterness growing like weeds in a neglected garden. Regret hit hard on quiet nights. Riley asleep. Me scrolling old photos on my phone, the US from before, smiling at a fairground, cotton candy sticky on our fingers. Why'd I give up so much for love stability, but resilient flickered too? I'd survived my dad's abandonment, mom's endless shifts. I had strength. I'd just buried it under layers of good wife BS. American dream? My ass, it's sold as partnership. But for women like me, it's often one-sided hustle. Hey, quick question for you all. Have you ever sacrificed big for your family, only to feel like it went unnoticed? Drop a yes or no in the comments. It's crazy how common this is. Right. Makes you think about what we put up with. Those roots ran deep, twisting into the betrayal at that party. But as I watched Riley sleep that rainy night, her plan brewing unknown to me, I felt a shift. Maybe it was time to dig them up. Sitting there in that motel room, the neon sign outside buzzing like an angry bee, I couldn't shake the memories from digging up those roots. It was like peeling back layers of an onion, each one stinging more than the last, making my eyes water all over again. But the real pain, it came from the years of sacrifice that followed those early days, the ones where I kept giving and giving, thinking it'd hold our family together. Boy, was I wrong. Let me tell you how it all escalated, piece by heartbreaking piece, because if I don't lay it out, you won't see how deep the rot went. After Riley was born, things didn't get easier, they got heavier. She was this tiny bundle of joy, but her asthma hit early and hard. Doctors said it was genetic, maybe from my side, since Mom had breathing issues from all those cleaning chemicals. Riley's first attack scared the hell out of me. She was just 6 months old, wheezing in her crib at 2 a.m., her little chest heaving like she couldn't catch a breath. I rushed her to the ER, the hospital lights glaring overhead as nurses hooked her up to a nebulizer, that misty machine humming while I held her hand, whispering, "It's okay, baby. Mommy's here." Blake. He showed up an hour later, yawning, complaining about traffic. "Can't you handle this stuff?" he grumbled, checking his phone the whole time. That night, I decided to quit my part-time job at the coffee shop. Full-time mom mode, someone had to be there for her inhaler doses, her allergy shots, the endless specialist visits. Blake agreed, but only because it meant he could focus on scaling the business. My sacrifice felt noble then, like I was building our future brick by brick. But noble doesn't pay the bills, and as Riley grew, so did the costs. Her meds weren't cheap, $200 a month out of pocket after insurance skimped. I'd clip coupons at the kitchen table, the fluorescent light flickering above, stacking them like a house of cards while Blake splurged on gadgets for his office. One Christmas, I scrimped to buy her a special air purifier for her room, the kind with HEPA filters that whooshed softly like a gentle breeze. Blake's gift to her, a tablet, flashy and new, but he wrapped it himself and took all the credit. "Daddy knows what you need," he said, winking at her as she tore open the paper in our living room, stockings hung by the fake fireplace. Meanwhile, I noticed him slipping envelopes of cash into his wallet, turns out. He was buying jewelry for Vanessa, that work friend who kept popping up in conversations. I'd find receipts crumpled in his pockets when doing laundry, the dryer tumbling like my stomach when I unfolded them, diamond earrings, $500. For her, while I begged for extra grocery money to cover Riley's organic foods that helped her breathing, the disappointment built slow, like pressure in a tire about to blow. I'd lie awake in our king-sized bed, the sheets cool where Blake should have been, listening to Riley's soft snores from the monitor. Why am I always the one bending, I'd think, staring at the ceiling fan spinning lazy circles? I started self-teaching online business stuff in stolen moments, free courses on YouTube about digital marketing, e-commerce for stay-at-home moms. I'd huddle at the desk in the corner of our home office, the screen glowing blue on my face, jotting notes on how to launch a virtual assistant service. This could be my thing, I told Blake one evening over dinner, the steam rising from spaghetti I'd made from scratch. Riley was coloring at the table, her crayons scratching paper with unicorns and rainbows. He laughed. Actually laughed. "Harper, come on. That's not realistic. Stick to what you're good at, the home stuff. I've got the real business covered." His words landed like a slap, casual but cutting. His motive control, plain and simple. He liked me dependent, tied to the house so he could play the big provider while chasing thrills elsewhere. It made him feel powerful, like the king of our suburban castle with its manicured lawn and two-car garage. As the years ticked by, the conflicts ramped up. Blake's indifference turned into outright gaslighting. One fight stands out. Riley had a bad asthma flare after a play date, coughing so hard her face turned red. I called him at work, panic in my voice. The phone pressed to my ear while I rubbed her back on the couch, cartoons blaring to distract her. "Blake, we need to get her to urgent care now." He sighed, like I was interrupting a board meeting. "You're overreacting again, Harper. Just give her the inhaler and chill. I've got a deadline." Click. He hung up. I drove her myself, the car speeding through traffic lights, my knuckles white on the wheel. Turns out, she needed steroids. The doc said stress at home could be triggering it. Stress from overhearing our arguments? No doubt. Blake came home late that night, reeking of whiskey and perfume. And when I confronted him, "Where were you when your daughter needed you?" he flipped it. "You're imagining things. Harper. Always so dramatic. Maybe if you weren't so clingy, I'd be home more." His eyes were steely. No remorse. Just deflection to keep his secrets safe. Riley saw it all. That smart little cookie. She'd pretend to play games on her tablet in the living room, the screen reflecting her focused face. But I caught glimpses apps open that weren't Candy Crush. "Dad's being mean again," she'd say sometimes, hugging me after a blow-up, her small arms tight around my waist. But here's where it got tricky. She started acting closer to him, giggling at his jokes during rare family dinners, the table set with mismatched plates I'd inherited from Mom. "Daddy, tell me about your work." She'd beam, and he'd light up, spinning tales of deals and demos. It made me suspicious, a knot of worry twisting in my gut. Was she turning against me, choosing the fun parent over the worried one I'd watch from the kitchen, drying dishes with a towel that smelled of lemon soap, feeling like an outsider in my own home? Little did I know. It was a ruse, a red herring she cooked up to get closer, to snap photos of his phone screen when he wasn't looking, record snippets of his late-night calls. "Just playing, Dad," she'd say innocently, her fingers flying under the table. Turns out, Riley wasn't alone in her scheming. She'd found a friend online through a kid-safe chat app for homework, helped someone going by Auntie Mentor, dishing advice on family projects. I overheard her once, whispering into the tablet in her room, posters of superheroes on the walls casting shadows from the nightlight. "Yeah, I got another picture today. What next?" The voice on the other end was warm, familiar somehow, but I didn't pry too exhausted from the daily grind. That friend, my long-lost aunt, Carla, Mom's sister who'd moved to California years ago after a family fallout. Riley had tracked her down via old Facebook posts I'd shown her once, piecing together emails like a mini detective. Carla, a successful tech consultant herself, was guiding Riley, "Document everything, kiddo. Evidence is power." It was their secret alliance, born from Riley's fear of losing me to the breaking point. The anxiety gnawed at me constantly. Nights when Blake was out, I'd pace the hallway, the carpet worn from my footsteps, wondering if I could really leave. What about Riley's school, her friends in the neighborhood? The house felt like a trap, cozy on the outside with its flower beds blooming in spring, but suffocating inside. Disappointment morphed into quiet rage. How dare he dismiss my ideas? My worth, I'd stare at my reflection in the bathroom mirror. Steam from the shower fogging the glass, seeing the lines around my eyes from sleepless nights. "You're stronger than this," I'd whisper, wiping the mirror clear. Determination sparked there, faint but growing, like embers in a dying fire. American life sells you the picket fence dream, but for so many of us moms, it's a solo battle juggling kids, home, and a partner's ego while your own dreams gather dust. You know, chatting about this reminds me, have any of you tried chasing a side hustle while raising kids, only to have it shot down? It's tough. Right. Share in the comments if that rings a bell. Makes me feel less alone. But as the fights got worse, Blake's mask slipping more each day, I had no idea his betrayal was just the tip of something bigger, a web of lies that went beyond affairs, straight into stealing my very ideas for his empire. Thinking back on those escalating fights and the way Blake's lies were stacking up like unpaid bills, it's no surprise that everything exploded at his company party. I'd been dreading it for weeks, the annual bash at that swanky downtown venue. All glass walls and skyline views, where employees and their spouses mingled under string lights like it was some corporate fairy tale. But for me, it was just another night of faking smiles, sipping watered-down cocktails, and pretending our marriage wasn't crumbling. Riley begged to come along at 8. She thought it sounded fun, with her in a sparkly dress I'd bought on sale at Target. "Please, Mom, I want to see Dad's work friends." Her eyes lit up, and I caved. Maybe it'd be a chance to show Blake we were still a family. Ha! If only I'd known the bomb he was about to drop. The night started okay, or at least as okay as it could in a room full of tech bros toasting their bonuses. The place buzzed with chatter, servers weaving through with trays of mini sliders and shrimp cocktails, the air smelling of cologne and ambition. Blake was in his element, schmoozing investors in his tailored suit, that confident grin plastered on. I hung back near the bar, nursing a soda because alcohol would have made the nerves worse, watching Riley nibble on a cookie while she played a game on her tablet. She looked so innocent there, legs swinging from a high stool, the screen glowing on her face. "Mom, when does the fun part start?" she whispered, and I forced a laugh. "Soon, sweetie. Just stick close." Then Blake called everyone over for his big announcement. The music dipped, spotlights swung his way, and there he was on a small stage, mic in hand, like he was giving a TED Talk. "Folks, I couldn't have built this company without inspiration," he started, his voice smooth as butter. The crowd clapped, and my chest tightened. Maybe he'd mention me, the late nights I'd brainstormed with him, but no. He waved someone up, Vanessa, strutting in a red dress that screamed, "Look at me," her heels clicking like warning shots. "Meet my real partner in crime, Vanessa. She's the one who's pushed me to new heights, not like my boring housewife routine back home." He pointed at me, chuckling, and the room erupted in awkward laughs. "Harper here's great at laundry and lunches, but business, nah. That's us pros." My face flamed. Riley's hand squeezed mine harder, her cookie crumbling to the floor. People shifted, some whispering, others avoiding my eyes. But Blake kept going, twisting the knife. "Actually, let's be real, that app that launched us. The core idea, I borrowed it from her old notebooks. Figured she wouldn't mind. She wasn't using them anyway." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Borrowed, stolen. More like. Those were my sketches. My late-night scribbles from years ago, when I dreamed of my own startup. He'd taken them, tweaked them, and claimed the glory while I raised our kid. The rage boiled up, hot and choking, like I'd swallowed fire. How dare he admit it like a joke? His motive hit me, then arrogance mixed with fear. From his perspective, yeah. Let's peek into that slimeball's head. He saw me as a liability now. Vanessa wasn't just arm candy, she was his accomplice, helping hide shady deals, like funneling company funds into offshore accounts to dodge taxes. He'd confessed it to her in whispers, thinking I was clueless. But exposing my contribution was his way of discrediting me before I could fight back, make me look like the bitter ex, not the rightful owner. Blake, what the hell? I blurted, my voice cracking over the murmurs. Riley tugged my dress, her eyes wide with confusion. He ignored me, raising his glass. To fresh starts, Vanessa's moving in, and Harper, well, you're out. I'm filing for divorce tomorrow, and I'll take Riley too, save her from that failure of a mom. The room went dead silent, forks clinking awkwardly as people stared. Failure me. The one who'd sacrificed everything so he could play CEO shock slammed into me like a truck, not just the humiliation, but the sheer cruelty. He was claiming custody over my dead body. Vanessa smirked, looping her arm through his, her motive clear greed. She wanted the lifestyle, the house. The status didn't care about the wreckage. I grabbed Riley and bolted, pushing through the crowd, tears blurring the exit signs. Outside, rain slicked the pavement, car headlights cutting through the downpour like knives. Mom, why did Dad say that? Riley asked, her voice small as we huddled under an awning, the city noise muffled by the storm. My heart shattered. How do you explain to a kid that her father's a thief and a liar? Rage surged, making my hands shake as I hailed a cab. From Blake's view, this was clean-up dump the wife who knew too much, before she uncovered his embezzlement scheme with Vanessa, who was skimming profits to fund her own side gigs. He'd rationalized it. Harper's too weak to fight. She'll roll over like always. Cold, calculated, like a business deal. The cab pulled up, splashing water, and we climbed in, soaked and shivering. Riley fiddled with her tablet, her fingers flying. I sent stuff to my friend, she whispered, glancing at me. The pictures, the recordings from under the table at dinner. My jaw dropped. Her plan was real. Evidence of his calls, his theft. But before I could process, my phone rang, an unknown number lighting the screen. I answered, voice trembling. Hello, Harper. It's Aunt Carla. Riley's been emailing me for months. Kid's a genius, she sent me everything. I'm on my way from Cali. We're taking this bastard down. Faint hope flickered then, weak but alive, like a match in the wind. Carla, Mom's estranged sister, the one who'd cut ties after a fight over inheritance years ago. Riley had found her linked up in secret. The cab sped through puddles, wipers slapping rhythmically, and I hugged Riley close, her wet hair against my cheek. This wasn't the end. It was the turning point. But damn, what came next would test everything. You ever had a moment where everything flips and you're left reeling, makes you wonder how many secrets families hide? If you've got a story like that, share it below. It's therapeutic. Trust me. That phone call from Aunt Carla in the back of that rain-slicked cab changed everything, or at least, it lit a fuse under the mess we'd just escaped. As the driver navigated the slick streets, wipers slapping back and forth like they were trying to erase the night, I clutched the phone, my voice barely above a whisper. Carla, how did Riley find you? She laughed, that warm, no-nonsense chuckle I remembered from childhood visits before the family rift. Kid's a tech whiz. Harper? She dug up my email from old family photos you posted online years ago. Been chatting with her for months? Auntie mentor. She called me Smart cookie. Now listen, I've got a red-eye flight booked. Meet me at the airport tomorrow morning. We're not letting that snake Blake get away with this. Faint hope from the call flickered. But as we pulled up to another cheap motel, this one with a flickering vacancy sign and cars parked haphazardly in the lot, the reality crashed back. We were broke. Broken. And on the run. The next few weeks were a blur of rock-bottom survival, the kind that tests every ounce of your grit. We crashed at that motel, the room smelling of stale smoke and cheap cleaner, with thin walls letting in arguments from next door. Blake had frozen our joint accounts overnight. His name was on everything. The provider perk he'd always lorded over me. My debit card declined at the grocery store, the cashier giving me that pitying look as I fumbled for change to buy ramen and Riley's inhaler refills. "Mom, I'm hungry," Riley whined one night, curled on the sagging bed under a scratchy blanket, her tablet her only comfort. Her asthma flared worse than ever, stress triggered. The doc at the free clinic said, handing me samples in a dingy exam room with peeling posters about healthy living. She'd wheeze at night, her small body shaking, and I'd hold her, rubbing her back in circles, whispering stories about strong women like her grandma to calm her. Sock hit me in waves. How had we fallen this far, from suburban comfort to scraping by on my last $200 applying for food stamps at a crowded office where moms like me avoided eye contact? Shame heavy in the air. Financially, it was a nightmare. American dream turned nightmare fuel. I'd pawned my wedding ring at a sketchy shop downtown, the pawnbroker peering over glasses at the simple band. $50, he grunted, and I took it. Tears stinging as I walked out into the bustling street. Cars honking like they were mocking me. Job hunting, forget it. Who hires a 32-year-old with a gap in her resume from family duties? Especially when your ex is blackballing you in the industry. Blake's texts came sporadically cold, threatening, "Give up Harper, you'll never make it without me." His motive was panic now. From his side, this was damage control. He'd underestimated Riley's sleuthing, and with Vanessa pushing him to cut ties clean, he was hiding assets, transferring money to offshore accounts she'd set up. But Vanessa, she was in it for the cash grab, siphoning company funds for her luxury habits designer bags, spa weekends while Blake cooked the books to cover it. Their corruption ran deep, embezzling client payments, faking invoices to inflate profits. Blake rationalized it as smart business. But deep down, fear gnawed at him. Fear of losing the empire he'd stolen from me. Riley's health scare was the breaking point. One evening, after a day of me pounding pavement for temp work, she collapsed in the motel room, gasping for air worse than ever. I scooped her up, heart pounding, and rushed to the ER in an Uber I couldn't afford. The waiting room was chaos, crying kids, beeping machines, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead like angry insects. Doctors hooked her to oxygen, the mask fogging with her breaths, and I sat there, holding her hand, guilt crashing over me. This is my fault, I thought, staring at the scuffed linoleum floor. I stayed too long. Let him break us. But resilient kicked into that fire I'd buried under years of compromise. No more, I vowed silently as nurses bustled by. Carla arrived that night, bursting into the hospital like a force of nature, her suitcase still tagged from the flight. Tall, with that same determined jaw as Mom. She enveloped us in hugs. "I've got you," she said, her voice steady. "Over coffee in the cafeteria, steaming cups and paper holders," she laid it out. Riley sent me scans of your old notebooks months ago, the ones with the app blueprints. Blake didn't borrow them. He stole them outright. I had my tech team analyze timestamps, match your handwriting, ideas verbatim, but kid went further. Carla pulled out her laptop, screen glowing in the dim light. Riley, from her hospital bed, had hacked lightly nothing illegal. Just clever kid stuff learned from Carla's online tips. Using a school coding app, she'd accessed Blake's work email via a forgotten shared family cloud account. I'd set it up years ago for photos. Snippets poured out emails to Vanessa about diverting funds, faking reports to investors. We cut Harper out before she sniffs this. One read. Multi-twist hit Vanessa wasn't just a mistress. She was a con artist with a history. Carla's PI dug up her real name, linked to prior scams. As we spoke, my phone buzzed with alerts, social media exploding. Riley had anonymously tipped a tech blogger via Carla's secure line, corruption at Blake's firm, stolen ideas, embezzlement. Hashtags like "See Tech Thief" trended, screenshots of those emails going viral on Twitter and LinkedIn. Blake's stock plummeted. Investors pulled out overnight. The FBI knock came, swift agents in suits raiding his office the next day as news choppers hovered overhead, footage splashing across local TV. Blake's world crumbled. Vanessa bolted with a chunk of the skimmed cash, fleeing to who knows where, leaving him holding the bag. From his panicked calls to me, voicemails pleading, "Harper, this is a misunderstanding. Help me fix it." I glimpsed his desperation. No cold calculation now, just a scared man facing cuffs, his empire exposed as fraud. Initial satisfaction washed over me, sweet and sharp, like biting into a ripe apple after starvation. He deserves this, I thought, watching Riley stabilize, her color returning under the hospital blankets. But it wasn't just revenge. It was justice. The kind that makes you rethink everything, how silence enables thieves, how kids like Riley can be the real heroes. Carla set us up in her Airbnb rental, a cozy apartment overlooking the city, with fresh sheets and a kitchen stocked with groceries. "Build from here," she said, handing me a folder of legal docs to reclaim my ideas. The scandal spread like wildfire online. Comments flooding, "That wife deserves millions." It felt validating, but exhausting. Reporters calling. Old friends texting apologies for not seeing the signs. Hey, speaking of tough choices, would you forgive a betrayer if they showed real regret, or cut them loose for good? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I've been wrestling with it myself. As the dust settled, that initial high of exposure gave way to real healing. But the fight was far from over. Blake's downfall was just the start of our rise. 3 years flew by in a whirlwind after that scandal hit the fan. But looking back, it feels like a lifetime of rebuilding from the ashes. The dust from Blake's downfall settled, slow FBI raids turning into indictments. His company folding like a bad hand in poker. Vanessa getting nabbed at the airport with a suitcase full of stolen cash. She turned state's evidence quick, spilling everything to save her skin, which left Blake twisting in the wind. Me, I didn't waste time gloating. Carla and I dove headfirst into turning my stolen ideas into something real. We launched Empower Apps, a platform for women entrepreneurs to market their side hustles. Ironic, right? Built from those old notebooks, with Carla as my co-founder, pumping in seed money from her Cali network. By year 2, we had offices in a sleek downtown building, glass walls overlooking the same city skyline where it all went down. I was CEO, juggling board meetings and Riley's soccer games, feeling that resilient surge every time I signed a deal. But the real test came at the divorce hearing, where everything came full circle. The courtroom was stuffy, like every legal drama you've seen on TV wood-paneled walls, a judge in black robes perched high, the American flag drooping in the corner. I walked in with my head up, in a sharp blazer and heels that clicked confidently on the tile floor. Riley by my side now, 11 and taller, her tablet swapped for a notebook where she jotted ideas for her own coding club at school. Blake sat across the aisle, looking like a shadow of himself, gaunt, in a rumpled suit, no more swagger. Vanessa was there too, in handcuffs from her plea deal, her red lipstick faded, eyes darting like a trapped animal. His family filled the back row, Evelyn twisting a tissue, Travis staring at his shoes. The air hummed with tension, whispers from reporters in the gallery scribbling notes. The judge banged the gavel, and it all spilled out. My lawyer, a sharp woman Carla hooked me up with, laid into the evidence those emails Riley snagged. Financial trails showing Blake's embezzlement, and forensic analysis proving my notebooks were the blueprint for his empire. Mr. Whitman stole not just ideas, but a future, she said, projecting scans on a screen that lit the room blue. Blake squirmed, his lawyer objecting weakly. Then came the bombshell Vanessa testified via video link from Holding, her voice tinny over the speakers. Blake planned it all, cut Harper out, hide the money. I helped because, well, I thought we'd run off rich. The courtroom gasped. Evelyn buried her face. Blake's turn on the stand was pathetic. I'm sorry. Harper, I got greedy, lost sight of what mattered. His eyes met mine, pleading, but it rang hollow. From his shattered perspective, this was rock-bottom motive exposed as pure selfishness. Fear of poverty after tasting success. He'd regretted it in prison visits, letters begging forgiveness. But it was too late. His coldness had scarred us. Satisfaction coursed through me like a warm wave, watching him fidget. But it mixed with slight regret for the years lost, the family we could have been if he'd chosen differently. Riley squeezed my hand under the table, her face set in that determined way she'd inherited from me. "He doesn't get us back," she whispered, and I nodded, proud of her growth. The judge ruled in my favor, full custody, half the remaining assets what wasn't seized, and restitution for my ideas, millions wired over time. As we wrapped, Blake approached, guards hovering. "Please, Harper, for old times." I looked him dead in the eye. "Old times are gone. You don't get to hurt us anymore." Setting that boundary felt like shedding a heavy coat, freeing, necessary. His family piled on next, in the hallway outside, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, the echo of footsteps from passing clerks. Evelyn hugged me tearfully, pearls clinking. "We were blind. Dear, so sorry." Travis pulled me aside by the vending machines, quarters clattering as someone bought a soda nearby. "Harper, I enabled him. Thought success excused everything. But seeing you rise, you're the real deal." He slipped me a check, his own money, to seed my company further. A light redemption. Not full, but genuine. He'd lost his real estate gig in the scandal's fallout, humbled now, volunteering at a men's group on accountability, their apologies bittersweet. Motivated by guilt and fear of isolation, Evelyn alone in her big house, Travis rebuilding from scratch. I accepted, but with limits. We talk on my terms, no more judgments. Healing kicked in after that. We moved to a bright townhouse in a family-friendly neighborhood with a backyard swing set Riley outgrew but still loved. Therapy became our weekly ritual, a cozy office with plush couches and tissue boxes where we'd unpack the trauma. I felt so small, I'd admit, tears flowing as the therapist nodded. Riley opened up too. I was scared Dad would win. It bonded us deeper, turning pain into strength. Online, I found a lifeline in forums for betrayed women, Reddit threads and Facebook groups buzzing with stories like mine. "You're not alone," one post read, and I'd reply late nights, laptop warm on my lap, the house quiet except for the hum of the fridge, shared tips on rebuilding finances, co-parenting through bars. Blake's supervised visits were stiff. Riley polite but distant. It was real American resilience moms swapping war stories over virtual coffee, turning betrayal into badges. The satisfaction deepened as Empower apps grew. We hit headlines from stolen ideas to startup queen. But slight regret lingered for Riley's lost innocence. For the family illusion shattered, resilient won out. Though I was louder now, bolder, laughing easier at PTA meetings or client pitches. You know, rebuilding after betrayal isn't linear. Some days you're on top. Others you're reflecting on what ifs. If you've bounced back from something similar, how'd you set those boundaries? Share below. Your stories inspire me. In the next video, watch how I turned this pain into an empire that changed lives. But for now, this confrontation, it was the closure we needed to truly move forward.